meeting last year. I think we're preparing to stream the meeting. I think it's still live, even during this period where we can do, shine your head, Jude, shine mine.
Happy early Thanksgiving. You are tuned in to an old man doing what I think is a turkey.
Maybe.
This is Old School, New School. I'm Jude Allume, the undeniably fresh, spry, handsome Will Masisak, blessing us with his presence again. Let's not even waste the people's time. Let's get right on to it. Another crazy week of NFL football. A couple more. How am I forgetting this word? A couple more unexpected upsets. Whoa. Major.
It was like all these teams, every playoff team either lost or like looked like they were going to lose at some point. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a crazy week where it's like all the teams that were in first place ended up not in first place. Major upsets happening. I don't know if this game was an upset. You know what? I don't even want to start with that game. Let's go with what you think was the biggest upset from this past week. I want to go Colts Bills, but I feel like maybe there were some others that were kind of more significant. Oh, there's definitely one that was more significant. Texans.
I mean, yeah, the Texans, I felt that's the sort of the biggest one. Speaking of teams, I mean, with the Texans' problem is they really need to get the overall first pick. Like, if there's ever a team that really needs the overall first pick, it's the Texans, right? And you play Tyrod Taylor, you're not going to be bad enough to get down to that level. He's not going to win you a championship, but that dude's a solid football player who's capable of making plays, and he sure did. And that, it's like going to be their downfall. They're going to end up with like the third or fourth pick, and they're going to miss out on 2 or 3 players that could have really have helped them. It's like they'll still get somebody good. It's a deep draft, so looking too far ahead. But yeah, they've got
2 wins already. I think it's quiet for them because there's a team called the Lions that's going to secure that number 1 overall spot for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's just like, okay, well, all that'll mean is you'll get the quarterback that probably should be picked late in the first round. You'll get your choice of the late first round quarterback with your first overall pick. Like that's what most teams, I mean, that's what you're really playing for this year. Anyway, big upset for Houston. And I think it was kind of a function of the fact that they played well, not so much that the Titans were absolutely terrible. That's not like they gave them the game. I just felt they got outplayed by Houston. And, like I said, Tyrod Taylor can make some plays for you, and the interceptions, not working for a team like Tennessee. They can't afford to turn it over.
Mm-hmm. I felt like the writing was on the wall for this because if you look at the games since Derrick Henry has gone down, yes, they were able to still get their wins, but that offense has been putrid. Ryan Tannehill has not stepped up the way that the team needed him to step up. So many interceptions, so many misconnections. You're also playing without Julio Jones, and that's like a major factor for them. That's not anything that's insignificant because now it's easy for you to say, okay, we're just going to take away A.J. Brown and force you to go to these other unproven receivers that you have, and it's not working for them at all. The new running back trio, yes, it was a great story. AP's back in the league for, the 30th year or whatever the case may be. But, he hasn't looked particularly great. Donta Foreman kind of sort of looks decent at times, but he's no one that you're game planning for. And even Jeremy Nicole, who I thought was going to have a much bigger role, now he's injured and he's not even able to suit up for them. So it can get really bad really quickly for the Titans. They can easily go from one of the hottest teams to one of the teams that can find themselves fighting for a wild card spot. If you ask me.
They're going to win the division. Like I said, it's so insurmountable for the Colts. No matter how good the Colts play, it's just too big a mountain. But furthermore, here's what Tennessee is setting itself up to be a first round exit in the playoffs. That's where they're hit. They're going to have a home game and lose it to some, wild card team that's, on a more of a roll than they will be by the time they get to the playoffs. They're limping home, man. But
listen, they got the Patriots. They've got the Steelers. They've got the 49ers.
Oh, yeah.
And those 3, I feel like they are more than likely going to lose. They've got the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Dolphins. Those are 3 games. If they have a fully healthy squad, I'm not thinking about it twice. But these are all teams that have proven that they can be scrappy and they can definitely pull off an upset, especially in this season of the NFL, where it seems literally any team can win any game.
But see,
I'm not saying
Indianapolis
that they're
plays
going to
nearly
go
the same.
0-6, but it's possible they can go 0-6.
All I'm saying is Indianapolis plays nearly the same. I mean, they got a tough schedule. I'm like, basically all the contenders in the AFC have tough schedule, and it's like if you have to, they have to. I think Indy has to gain still 3 games on Tennessee in order to win a division. You know what I mean? That's
but they're like teams heading in opposite directions. Indy you can make an argument is probably one of the hottest teams in the league right now.
I'm sorry, is Carson Wentz the quarterback for Indy? I'm sorry.
3 wins in a row, and they've got an eliminator. First, let me go back a little bit and say Carson Wentz is playing the best football he's played in the last 3 years, hands down. I think you can agree to that.
Yeah, the last few weeks he is, yes.
Absolutely. And then you've got an eraser. If Carson's not so hot, let's just hand it off to the hottest running back in football right now, the best running back in football right now. He was great last season, but this is almost like a breakout campaign, even though he went over 1,000 last year, a breakout campaign from a good season for their running back in Jonathan Taylor. This guy is amazing. Ran for 5 touchdowns last week. Unbelievable. So I think they're in a really great position where that defense is finally coming to form and playing to the standard we've seen them play the last 2 or 3 years. And now you've got this running back, and it's almost like you can copy what your division rival Titans are trying to do and just, hey, let's hand it off, not put too much on Carson's plate, play some really good defense, and spank everybody that we played. This is their formula now, and it's really working for them.
Yeah, you just can't do it against a team that can contain your run game, though. That's the thing. Okay, so Jonathan Taylor,
which team has contained this run game? Is what I'd like.
Here's the point. The Ravens did.
Jonathan Taylor, he still had.
I shouldn't say that. That game was I mean, we'll get to the Ravens in a second.
Right.
I mean, this is just my thing about the Browns. Same thing. You can be really great running the football, but it doesn't generally give you enough points to win the game against a good NFL team. So you can control the tempo, you can control the clock, you can move the ball between the 20s, but it's like you still kind of got to get it done against a good team. So what I would say about Indy is they're good. They're not a threat to win the Super Bowl. I mean, really, like that would be a very surprising result because of how they're built and who their quarterback is.
I mean, I think if this guy continues to play the way he played last week, I'm not counting them out against anybody.
It's Ryan Tannehill. It's last year. Ryan Tannehill looked unbelievable when he had the great run game. When he didn't have the great run game, he's not a quarterback that's going to elevate you and win the game. And that's the same with Carson Wentz to me.
I hear that. But nonetheless, they're 6-5. Titans aren't that far off at 8-3. They've only got a 2-game lead. All right, 6 games left in the season.
They really have a 2.5-game lead because they swept Indy. That's what I'm saying. They have to gain 3 games.
But that only comes into account if they finish with a tied record. I don't anticipate that's going to be the case.
Wow.
I can see this team going 2-4 the rest of the way, and I can see the Colts possibly winning it out. They go 2-4, finished 10-7. Indy wins 5 games. They need to go 5-1. So you give yourself 1 loss, and you're going to get yourself into that number 1 seed. All right.
It's not happening, Jude. This is the NFL. Few teams are going 5-1 in any 6-game stretch. I don't care who you are.
Hey, listen. These guys just did it winning 6 in a row.
Let's talk about Packers. Let's talk about Packers Vikings for a second.
0 offense, so it's not impossible. Anything is possible. All right. But since we are already talking about the Colts, let's go ahead and talk about the statement victory that they had against the Bills. Another week where I'm sitting here thinking, okay, the Bills are going to come out and show that they deserve to be the number 1 seed, that they're the most balanced team offensively and defensively, and they laid a major dud.
Yeah. They got offensive line problems right now. That's for starters, and their defense can't stop the run. So that's a problem for any team. You got offensive line and defensive line problems.
The defense has been good against the run. They just ran against the hottest running back in the league, and unfortunately, they also had no answers for him.
Yeah, it just wasn't. I mean, it's just you lose in the trenches like that. It almost makes me feel like there's something wrong with how they approach that game. Like that they didn't like their game plan, or whatever they were trying to do was the wrong choice. I don't know exactly, what it was from their standpoint, but They have been so hot and cold this year. They've looked terrible in the losses, and they look great when they win. Welcome to the NFL 2021.
Well, somebody actually pointed it out to me. If you take that closer look and just look at who they've beaten, and it kind of speaks for itself. When they play a good team, it's not a good game for them. When they play a team that they're supposed to beat, they do what they're supposed to do. They beat them, but it's like you're not going to win a championship if all you can do is beat the teams that you're clearly better than. Yeah. You have to be able to compete with the elites in the league, and they just haven't been able to do so far.
Yeah, well, that loss to Pittsburgh, though, is looking more like a game where it was a game that they really should have won. And, so it's just sort of like there's remnants of this throughout their whole season. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of mystery to it. I just feel like it's when you have whatever issues you have as an NFL team eventually are going to get exposed. Sometimes they get exposed early in the year, and sometimes they get exposed in your last game of the year. But eventually the NFL will find you. Whatever's wrong with you, they'll figure it out, and it will hurt you. Your weakest link is really the issue with almost every team.
Right. I mean, I'm looking.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at Josh Allen, and he comes into the season an MVP candidate. In those first few games, it looks like he was trying to force it, but they were winning despite that. And now it's kind of back in this situation where it's like, all right, we kind of need you. They've kind of pigeonholed him in this situation where they don't have a really good run game. So it's really the offense is going to flow as he flows. So if he's good, they're good. If he's not good, then the defense is going to feel a lot of pressure because that's basically the only thing they have that they can depend on week in and week out. Even though last week they couldn't depend on that defense. Like, I don't know what was going on last week, but they need to throw that game film out. Nonetheless, Josh Allen is the issue here. He's the guy that's your MVP candidate. That's your franchise quarterback that you're waiting and expecting to, carry you across the finish line. And he just hasn't looked the part so far this season for me.
Yeah. Speaking of MVP quarterback candidates and the guy that's supposed to be your superstar, what's going on with Green Bay and their quarterback and his toe or his COVID? Like what is going on there exactly? Because I haven't been able to follow. I know that he was talking after the loss, like his toe is really an issue, but that's the first I heard of it. So maybe you can tell me what's going on.
Well, I mean, it was a little mention of it. It wasn't something that was discussed. It came up on the injury reports, and that was about it. Nobody really thought about it. He wasn't ever really in danger of missing the game. The one thing that they did note, looking back at those injury reports from the team, they said, it is a significant injury. It's not something to just look past, but at least for this game, it shouldn't be something that, will put his availability into question. Now, after the game, he mentions it and he says it's more significant than a turf toe, and it gets all this attention. I think what it's coming down to, it's going to be an injury that, it's going to be painful for him to play through, but it is something he can and will play through, but still something to monitor because if it gets worse, it might be something where, he does miss a few games. Having said that, though, he did look really good on this toe. I'd say that was his best game of the season last week, even though they lost against the Vikings.
Yeah, well, it was the Vikings who always figure out a way to lose, managed to figure out a way to win at the end of the game. But it's
they were this close. They really came close. Almost gave him the interception with less than 2 minutes left. I mean, Kirk Cousins really tried to give us the same old same.
He did indeed. But yeah, he just couldn't figure out how to lose that game. That's how I felt about it.
I guess we have to win this week. Yeah.
And just quickly, the flip side to that is the Ravens. I just wanted to touch on the Ravens. It wasn't an upset, but that's a game that I like about 5 other Ravens games this year. I just can't figure out exactly how they won that game. Playing their backup quarterback, who for the first half of the game looked like he wouldn't be able to get a first down.
They're stuck in headlights.
And then somehow they won that game. Like, can you explain the Ravens to me? Are they just a good team who figures out a way to win every week, or are they a team that's just on this amazing run of luck that eventually will turn against them?
It's definitely a lot of luck involved. Defense stepped up. You'd also look at who they played in the Bears, no offense to them, but no one's looking at the Bears and circling that on their calendar. That's kind of a game most of the teams in the NFL who are in playoff contention are just, looking at as this is a game that we should win. Add on to that, Justin Fields, their starting quarterback, even though he's not a superstar in the league by far, he was starting to play better, and he's the one that's getting all the practice practice reps. He was out for the game in the first half.
They looked terrible with him, and they actually scored immediately as soon as they put Dalton in the game. So
right.
I'm not blaming this on Justin Fields.
I would say even though Dalton came in through the touchdown, it's still hard to come in as a quarterback and have a firm grasp of the offense if you haven't been getting those first team reps all week. So yeah, we saw him score on that first drive, but it was a lot more difficult as the game went on. So definitely advantage to the Ravens there. It wasn't a shootout. It was a 16-13 game. Yeah. Defense came and did just enough for them to win.
Okay, but you've avoided my question. Are they a good team that's figuring out how to win every week because they're good, or are they really running on a run of luck that's not sustainable?
I did answer. I said it's a little bit of both. I mean,
but a little bit of both is not an answer.
That's an answer, because you need to be lucky.
Binary. Choose one.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and they were both lucky. And defensively, they were good. Offensively, they were definitely lucky. I think the Bears had a great game plan. They sold out on stopping the run because they knew that's what they were going to do with or without Lamar, whether it be the quarterback run or the trio of running backs that they have. They sold out and they stopped them.
Blown coverage at the end. I mean, the blown coverage when you have to lead that late in the game for a deep ball is nuts. Steelers did it too against the Chargers.
Thank the Bears for that. I mean, the Bears were dealing with a lot of injuries on defense too. So, I mean, it was just set up for them to come away with the victory. But at the end of the day, good teams in the NFL find ways to win games. You can just chalk it up that they're a good team, and they did what they were supposed to do. They found a way to win a game. Winning without your MVP caliber quarterback, that says a lot, regardless how ugly the win was. I mean, they can hang their hat on it. Hopefully they get Lamar back, because you won't win too many more games playing like that. Your luck is definitely going to run out.
Yeah, you're not playing the Bears and the Lions every week for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this week's games a little bit. I know how desperately you would like to discuss them. What's on your agenda for this week's games?
Let's see. I feel like this Buccaneers Colts game might be a really good one, just because, again, Colts are really hot. Buccaneers coming off a Monday night win against the Giants. Prior to that, they lost a couple games that they feel they really should have won. And I think it's really going to be a measuring stick for the Colts to see how good they really are. They're going up against the number one rush defense. How good really is Jonathan Taylor? Is he going to be able to have that kind of performance against what is the best run defense in the NFL? If he can perform against them, then I feel like this is going to be a really good run of games for the Colts. If they can come away with the W, then I'm really going to sell out, go all in on this. Colts are going to win the division, be the first seed in the AFL, because right now it's really a toss-up. I think Ravens are slated number one. Nonetheless, I digress. Colts, if they can come away with the win, they have a real shot at being the number one seed in the AFC. That being said, that's a tall task. I mean, the Bucs are playing as good as anybody right now. Defensively, they've got a lot of guys back from injury. They were able to stifle that Giants offense. Offensively, I mean, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. I don't know. Everyone keeps expecting him to fall off that cliff, and it's just like he's got Father Time by the throat. He's just beating him senselessly, and that offense just looks so good. It's unfair because they're still playing without AB. They finally got Gronk back, and it's like the offense is definitely better when Gronk is playing, because it looks like he's legitimately Brady's go-to receiver when he really needs somebody to come up with the catch. That being said, I do think that you're playing against the number one run defense. As much as I would like for them to beat the Bucs, I don't think he has that kind of success against them. I do say that, they won't shut him down completely like they've done every other running back, but he won't be able to do enough, and Carson Wentz won't be able to, take over enough for them to really compete with these guys. It's a really good matchup, but I think the Bucs are still the better team in this one, and they'll find a way to come out with a victory.
If I think about Indy's success on offense, it's this combination of the run game and these middle of the field intermediate throws to Pittman, like that to me is sort of like they're looking to sort of play action, make you think about the run, and when you bring the linebackers up to look to beat the linebackers in the middle of the field. Tampa Bay is a wrong team. I mean, that is like the perfect antidote to what Indianapolis likes to do. They have those linebackers in the middle of the field who are perhaps the best in the NFL.
I'd say, the best 1-2 punch at middle linebacker.
Yeah, and it's like that's a real tough ask, I think, for Indianapolis. So I think what you're going to end up seeing is they'll run the ball. They maybe not run it enough to like really make a huge difference in this game, but really the pressure will be put on Carson Wentz to buy extra time to move out of the pocket and try to find guys downfield in order to make this work. That's probably not going to get it done against a Tampa Bay team who offensively is going to be able to move the ball on Indy. So I think, if they were able to run it enough and if they could hit some outside throws, some other guys step up, they can make a game of this. I think it might be a game that's close for a little while, and then Tampa Bay pulls away. What do you make of this?
I will say I do like Pittman against the Tampa Bay secondary. They're a good secondary, but they're not a great team, and Pittman has really come on strong this year, so I feel like he will find some success. It's just a matter. It really hinges on if Carson Wentz is able to, take on the bigger load and, carry this team to victory. Let's go to the AFC North, your stomping grounds.
Yeah.
We got Browns, Ravens. How do you see this one ending up?
I just feel like, the Ravens, really the teams that have given them the most trouble over the last couple of years, since Lamar Jackson has been their starter, have been the AFC North teams. Mm-hmm. I want to pick the Browns to win. I just feel like the Browns are on such a bad run right now. Mm-hmm. They're such a mess that it's hard to imagine them being able to put up enough points to win this game. But I think I kind of feel like it's a low scoring game. And that the Ravens will figure out a way to win in the end. I hate to say that because a month ago I would have said, I think this is one of the games I circle on the Ravens schedule where I think they can lose because, the Browns, the Steelers, Cincinnati really play well against the Ravens and generally have a plan to keep Lamar Jackson from doing what he likes to do best. Ordinarily I would give the Browns actually the advantage in this matchup. But I just feel like they're just a hot mess right now. How do you see it?
It really depends on if Lamar is back from this illness. It looks like the illness isn't something that's, was a 1 week thing. There's still reports that he's feeling effects from it. So if he plays, then I really like the Ravens in this one because the Browns are reeling right now, offensively, defensively, just injuries galore. Mm-hmm. And then you look at, the head of that offense and Baker Mayfield, besides the torn labrum in the shoulder, the non-throwing shoulder, he's now got issues with the heel and a bone bruise in his knee. So he's just really trying to play through the pain. But at some point you've got to say, you know what, I need some time because I'm just hurt. I'm banged up. And it looks like his play is suffering. I mean, I don't think you look at any of his recent games and say, okay, well, he managed to play really well, even though he's going through all of this. It's like, man, Baker does not look good. Baker is not able to help his team right now. I mean, they managed to win, but it's against the Lions, and it was a close game that went down to the wire. If Lamar is healthy, I don't think this is close a game. I think this is going to be a bad game for the Browns. That being said, I will also note that for whatever reason, even from before Baker, the Browns always play the Ravens tough. It's always a close game. It always goes down to the wire. So, it might be a close game, but the Ravens definitely should be able to pull this one out. Again, if Lamar's playing. Yeah,
I didn't realize that there was a question about Lamar playing. Without Lamar, then it becomes a bit more realistic to think that the Browns might be able to pull out a win. Let's put it this way: the Browns need to win. If they don't win these division games coming up, they're going to be hurting for their playoff. The decision will be made to shut Baker down anyway pretty soon. But I think he's probably reluctant to shut it down, among other reasons, just because it's a contract situation year. Mm-hmm. They have they thought they were a playoff team that could make a run. But it's
the crazy part is once every few games they look like the team that is a playoff team and can make some noise. But then it's like for the overwhelming majority of games, even games that they come out with a victory, it's like no way these guys do anything this season. Hey,
listen, I wouldn't be shocked if they come out and blow the Ravens up. I mean, like it wouldn't shock me for that to happen or for the Ravens to win 40-3. Like
it would shock me if they did that.
It's a division game, man. They're weird.
Yeah,
it's hard to pick.
Not completely unheard of, though.
Speaking of division games, what about Pittsburgh going to Cincinnati? Now, let me just, before you answer, Cincinnati played really well last week. Steelers put up a lot of points without any. They're literally missing 5 of their 6 starters on defense. Kind of a problem. But the thing about this matchup is Cincinnati won the earlier game this year when T.J. Watt and Joe Hayden were out. So now those guys are back. And it's it's sort of the onus is on Pittsburgh. They're like in Cleveland situation. They need this win. It's probably the must win for them to have contention, not only in the playoffs, but for their division. Let me ask you, how do you see this game?
Just like you said, I mean, even without it was without Hayden, without Minka, and without TJ,
and just Stephon Tuitt, and they've been missing
Tuitt, he hasn't played
Tyson Alualu. I'm just saying, at the beginning of the year, those were like last year's defense that was hot. Those guys were all starters that were in Pro Bowl or better consideration. So.
Bengals coming off a victory against the Raiders. They looked really good offensively, defensively. Burrows and he looks like he's back in control of that offense. But it's kind of been like that all season for them. They come out, they look bad. Next game, they come out, they look good.
That's everybody in the NFL.
That's everybody. But they've managed to string together 6 wins here. Steelers coming off of a loss, but I feel like this might have been the best I've seen that offense look this season. Again, even though they're coming off of a loss, Chargers just did a little bit more. And I guess they have the ball last to come away with that victory too?
No, the Steelers had the ball last and literally gave up two sacks and a false start that cost them 30 yards.
Yes.
But the sacks were like the variety of like where your guard completely misses the guy and comes free at quarterback, and then there's also the tackle was giving up. It was a horrendous offensive line performance. They couldn't run against the best worst rushing defense in the league. And they gave up, killer sacks at the end of the game. So yeah, the offensive line, a work in progress, despite the fact that they put up 37 points. I think go ahead.
I have to retract that this was the best offensive performance, because for the first 3 quarters, they didn't look that good, but they just really turned it on in that 4th quarter. If only, NFL teams just had that button where they can, say, okay, what we did in the 4th quarter, let's just do that for 4 quarters instead and really put away this game, but
they moved it. They were only punted once before, from the beginning of the game until the 4th quarter started. So it's not like they didn't perform. It's just like they couldn't.
They weren't putting up points, and at the
situational, right? Exactly. Like situational football
points.
Got them, and I think that's I'm a Steelers fan. I can tell you that the play calling in situational football last few years, but particularly that last year or two, has just been like it's worse for them if they get it into 5-yard first and goal from the 5 is worse for them than if they're at the opponent's 30. You know what I mean? It's like they have more of a chance of scoring from the 25 or 30-yard line than they do from the 5. So, that's a working, like I said, offensive line work in progress. You can't count on your offensive line to just bulldoze guys into the end zone on first and goal. Then you always got to rely on trickery or somebody to beat somebody else one-on-one. It's hard to sustain that. I think
you might know more than me. I haven't really looked. All the guys that were out last week with the Hayden and Minka and TJ, what's their status for this week?
According to the head coach press conference yesterday, they're all returning.
Returning.
Yeah. So they will be more or less full strength. The only players that are, Eric Ebron, I think, is going to have knee surgery and he's going to be out. But he made an amazing play for them and had a touchdown. So it's not like he's nothing. Kind of more of a go-to in the 2 minutes.
That's an injury you can
get over, right? Exactly.
Yeah, you can absorb that injury. Yeah,
but and they're still their left guard is on IR, so that's another one they'll be missing. But yeah, more or less, they're back to some functionality on defense, which was the problem last week. I think the game with Cincinnati is probably a bit of a higher scoring affair than they've had recently, and undoubtedly a close game. I'm a little bit amazed that they have Cincinnati as a 5-point favorite in this game. I feel the game feels a lot closer than that to me. I like the Steelers in the points. Steelers have played well on the road, really. So in a way, I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if they play a very patient kind of a game and they turn it on a little bit when they need to later in the game and figure out a way to beat Cincinnati. I just the way the division is going and the way the NFL goes, a split in the division is the most likely outcome in the AFC North, right? So in any game where somebody has won the first round, it's always better to pick the opponent in the other round. That's what I like to say.
I think, maybe they'll just go ahead and tie in this game.
Yeah, that's all they need.
I think, it's going to come down to can the Bengals. You said they were one of the worst teams. I thought they were one of the best teams in stopping the run.
No, the Chargers. The Chargers were horrible against stopping the run. They could not run. The Steelers could not run the ball.
Okay. Right. Okay. Bengals are top 5 in stopping the run. I would say if they're able to stop Najee Harris and you just force Big Ben to kind of retract to the guy he used to be, who's throwing way more passes than he needs to, who's like just forcing the ball downfield when it's really not there. I think they have a really good chance at, coming up with another victory.
I mean, that was Sunday night. They scored 37. I mean, I'm just saying, it's like you just described what their offense was on Sunday night. Ben is over the last 5 games, got 9 touchdowns, no picks, thrown for close to 8 yards a pop. It's like they're fine to do that if they don't wait until the fourth quarter to start throwing it,
Yeah, but they were throwing it during the first 3 quarters, and he was taking those shots downfield, and they just weren't really connecting on those.
They moved. That's what I'm saying. They didn't even punt. They went when they got stopped down in first and goal.
On the shots I saw him taking downfield, like the real deep downfield throws, I saw a lot of misses. I mean, he connected on a few, but I saw a lot of misses as well. And I'm saying if they're able to just force it, I don't think that you want Ben Roethlisberger throwing, 35, 40 times a game. I think you give yourself a really good chance. I think Steelers are really better when they're balanced and they've got Najee Harris going and he's running the ball well.
100% they're better when they're balanced. But what I'm saying is you do what you need to do to win the game. Mm-hmm. And you get in that desperation mode early in the game instead of waiting to the fourth quarter. Your chances of winning are better.
Right. I mean, okay, so just put it in your head that, you're down 40 in the first quarter and, just come
I wish they, for 10 years, 15 years, like when they had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and Martavis Bryant, they didn't play that way. It's like, turn it on early and let yourself coast. They never play that way, ever. I think it's a function of the whole organizational mindset. They think you possess the football, you keep the other team from scoring, and win it, close game at the end is their mantra for 30 years now,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Nonetheless,
not in the 70s. In the 70s, they attacked, but not now.
You really surprised me when you said you were a Steelers fan there. Nonetheless, I see the Bengals stopping the run game and forcing Ben to throw it way more times than they really want to. And I see, you're going to have all these offensive weapons back, but I really like the trio they have in quarterback, running back, receiver, and Chase, Burrow, and Joe Mixon, who's quietly having a really good season at running back as well. I think this is a game that the Bengals come away with, and they get the home field advantage. Granted, the Steelers do travel well. Steelers fans do travel well, but I still feel like this is a game that will be close. Again, AFC North always play each other tough, but I think the Bengals do come away with the victory in this one. Final game that we'll touch on, Rams versus Packers here.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I just this thing with the Packers, they just don't seem. It feels like since the COVID thing with Aaron Rodgers, that their relationship has cooled again, like it was in the offseason. So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of bad vibes going on with the Packers right now. I mean, clearly there's bad vibes going on with the Rams right now. So in a way, it's like a redemption game for somebody. This game is
in Green Bay.
In Green Bay, right? Yeah. I feel like the Packers in a late November, early December game against a dome team or a team that plays in Los Angeles. I feel like that's a game that the Packers have to win. I think, you just, no matter how dysfunctional things are, you've still got to figure out a way to win that game. So I think the Packers bounce back and win against the Rams. I'm not sure that show travels very well. Speaking of traveling,
I think you're right. A couple of things here, like you nailed it. They're playing in a late November game. It's going to be cold. You're used to that warm Cali weather. It's not the same thing. in addition to that, just teams coming off the bye haven't particularly done well, especially the teams, that have been crowned as, among the few who have a real possibility at winning a championship. I don't know why, but this season they all just seem to come out of the bye a lot more sloppy and a lot less prepared. And, I don't know if it's the toe. I doubt that it's the toe, but Aaron Rodgers is coming off his best performance this season. So maybe he strings together another performance like that with the toe still bothering him, and they come away with a victory this time. Defensively, the Packers, they didn't look as good as they have, I'd say, within the last 5 weeks or so. They've really kind of changed themselves into one of the better defenses in the league, when really in the start of the season, they looked like they couldn't stop anybody. So yeah. I would like to see what they do. I would like to see how the Rams will react, especially now that Odell Beckham is going to have more of a grasp of that offense. Without Odell, he did play like 15 snaps in his first games, but with just Cooper Kupp and then the other receivers, I didn't like that offense a ton. Hopefully Odell's picked it up and they can play a lot better offense. He can kind of just slide into what Robert Woods was doing for that offense. But coming off a bye with the Rams, it's a game at home at Lambeau Field in late November. I really like the Packers to win this one, especially with Aaron Rodgers coming off that game. Even though they lost his best game of the season, I like the possibilities of them coming away with the W here.
Nice. Last word.
Last word.
I got a good one while you think of it.
Go for it.
Before we started the season, who are the two best teams? Who's the best team in the NFC? Who's the best team in the AFC? How about Tampa Bay and maybe the Kansas City Chiefs? Mm-hmm. And like here we are with 6-7 weeks left to go in the season, 5 weeks left to go in the season, 6 weeks, I don't know. And who it looks like might be the two best teams in the NFL?
Kansas City and the
they're both in pretty good position to get the number one seed. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that actually works out in the end. But it's amazing. We went through all this flux to just kind of come back around to where we were.
Final word, Cam Newton, feel-good story, comes back.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing unbelievably. They lost to Washington. But what I'm really saying is Washington is kind of sneakily putting together a couple of wins, playing a lot better. Even though Chase Young is out, which is a major blow for them, they still put two back-to-back. They beat the Buccaneers, and now they beat, granted, not a great team, but they still beat the Panthers on the road with, everyone seemingly against them in this feel-good story for Cam Newton. Just, maybe like a watch out, because it's always possible that somebody can just catch a hot streak and all of a sudden win the NFC East, because really anybody's able to win that division in football, even though, Cowboys have a major league right now, but, still.
Well, the Cowboys get this nice home game on a Thursday that they get every year that helps their record probably over the course of 20 years. So we'll see how that goes. But salute to Cam Newton who came in and had at least gave the fans something to cheer about for a minute.
All right. I guess, this kind of going to be a quarterback controversy mid-season there. Sam Darnold gets off of IR. Are you going to go back to him, or are you going to stick with Cam? You invested a lot in getting Sam, but, that remains to be seen.
That ship has sailed, buddy. That Sam Darnold ship. That's what I think.
Listen, I told you at the beginning of the season, man. I watched this guy play for like 3-4 years. Loved him as a USC Trojan. I don't want him on my team. I'm sorry.
No, there's only one kind of ship in Carolina, and it's not a championship. That's all.
What kind of ship?
It's the ship with Darnold sailing. Anyway, dude, you're Jude Allume. I'm Will Masisak.
I am.
This is Old School, New School Football, and we're glad you tuned in. Hit the like button, subscribe, send us a comment, a message. Tell us to cease and desist. We'll even take a letter from your lawyer. And in the meantime, catch you next week on Old School, New School Football. Jude.